maybe I can just say what my grandpa used to tell me all the time, is to leave a place better, in a better condition than when you arrive. And so that's been kind of our culture and our history for Ojibwe people, is that when we go to a place, we make the place better.
We do a lot of community projects to keep our cultural traditions alive, and we use a lot of materials from the woods that we gather right here on the reservation. We have built this canoe right here. We use cedar, birch bark, spruce roots, pine tree, pitch, and we use our canoes to go out and gather our wild rice.
Today we're sitting here overlooking Perch Lake while our rice is in the floating leaf stage. The reason we still harvest our rice today by hand is that it adds to the stability and the regrowth of the rice in the future.
This building was built in 2010, and we've met, I believe, the gold standard of LEED. Some of the concepts that we put into the design were the rooftop gardens, kind of dissipate the rain that comes down. And we have also got a passive solar in the southern end of our building that we use as a heat source in the wintertime. The building kind of is an example to our community and our reservation to develop standards that look at sustainability and energy usage.
We EPA are very excited about working with them on two very significant projects. One is an alternate energy project that involves the expansion of their solar panel capabilities on the reservation. This project will result in the generation of 1 megawatt of electricity with no greenhouse gases, and will save the tribe about $100,000 a year. We also have a second project which involves a very innovative recycling effort.
I've always been interested in finding innovative ways in supporting tribes to prevent pollution and sustainably manage materials. Social marketing uses commercial marketing concepts to influence behaviors for the greater social good. So community-based social marketing takes it a step further by involving direct personal contact with community members.
And we've worked with Dolly Tong to get some project funds to do a community-based social marketing project working with a tribal college. The term is Anji Minwa Bajitun, and it's renew the good use of something. So it's actually fitting for recycling and reusing.
Both of these signs are in Anishinaabe, or the Ojibwe language, and we thought that was very important because our mission statement here is a union of cultures. So we want to reflect that and honor the union of cultures that we have here at Fond du Lac Tribal and Community College.
My Indian name is Osal Wanakwat Yellow Cloud, and I'm from Fond du Lac, and I'm a member of the Eagle Clan. I'm very proud of all the people that have worked on it, their students, their faculty and staff. Since everybody's gotten involved, I know that 50 to 60% of our students now are recycling.
We can't just keep taking from our mother and Mother Earth and to not give back. And by giving back, by recycling, we're not demanding as much from Mother Earth as we have in the past. We're keeping our waters clean, we're keeping our air clean, and we're keeping our environment clean.
When the state of New York called the EPA in on this, the site was quite a horror. There were thousands and thousands of drums just piled up. This was a titanium manufacturing and production site. When the state of New York required the property owner to clean up the site, one of the methods they used was to just puncture the drums and let them drain out. The EPA has taken some enforcement actions against the responsible parties in an effort to recover our costs. In addition, he's been charged and convicted of several environmental crimes, and he has spent some time in jail. We saw that the extent of the groundwater contamination was extending all the way down to Long Island Sound, which is approximately a 1.5 mile distance from this location.
Years ago, having read of those problems with Lawrence Aviation, it became very apparent that something had to be done. That plume was working its way toward Port Jefferson Harbor, and that was just not acceptable.
The Record of Decision called for 2 groundwater pump and treatment plants to be constructed as part of the remediation effort. The concept is to remove contaminated groundwater from the environment. So at the site, the pump and treatment plant is to stop additional contamination from going into the groundwater. The facility that's built within the village itself is to capture the contaminated groundwater that has already reached the lower lying areas from the site.
Well, I think after the EPA came in and did their had their findings, they saw that the groundwater was high at that point, and that was the best spot for the treatment facility to be located. It was open space first and foremost.
We knew that in order to get the complete cooperation of the public, it would be necessary to have the water treatment and pump station fit into that neighborhood. It's surrounded by houses, it's a completely residential area.
The community was very surprised because, what do you mean there's a Superfund site in my community? Many came to the meetings and looked at the architectural designs and had some input on how it should and shouldn't, the color, would it have a lot of noise? Lately, EPA has considered building treatment plants in homes, and this is why we have one here.
During the design phase of this project, there were several pump and treatment plants throughout Long Island that were being decommissioned. So what EPA did was take all of the equipment from defunct facilities throughout Long Island and bring them here. This facility qualifies as a sustainable design. We have a host of sustainable materials that we use for the construction of this building. On the exterior, we have the lap board. It's resistant to hail, to insects, and to mold, and can withstand the changing weather conditions. Since we were drawing up groundwater to begin with, we decided we should utilize geothermal heat exchange in order to generate the climate control within the structure itself. The insulation that we utilized inside is a soy-based, no VOC material. It allows for a moisture and vapor barrier so that it keeps our energy costs down, but it also acts as a noise reducer, which was one of the biggest concerns that the public had. It was the public who wanted to see a living driveway. They didn't want to see traditional pavement where you would have runoff of water after it would rain. We selected a product that is manufactured locally and installed it. Based on the data that we've collected, we're seeing this remedy work. The facility located on top of the hill is preventing contaminated groundwater from coming down gradient into the village of Port Jefferson. This facility is acting appropriately in narrowing the plume of contamination as well as lowering the concentrations of contaminants.
I'm most proud that we were able to build this facility to start taking the toxins out of the water. So remediating that was critical, and also we worked out an agreement whereby when the facility is no longer required, the EPA is going to give us the building so that we can use it for truly for recreational purposes. And so I think that was a bonus for us at the end of the game.
The EPA's efforts were a tremendous contribution to our community. Health-wise, it also gave people a great deal of peace of mind.
We're all here for the same reason. We all are trying to protect human health and the environment. When you can accomplish those two things, doing it in a sustainable manner and providing an economic incentive to the community, it's a win for all.
So there's about 80,000 people living in Camden, and at times the tree canopy coverage here has been about 10%. That's not a healthy community. People here are disproportionately affected by air pollution. There are serious flooding issues, combined sewer systems.
All the sewage from Camden County comes through this plant. That orange and pink thing over there is a trash incinerator. All the trash from the county goes to that area. You have all this industry, see all these stacks. Still within this 1 square mile, you have 2 Superfund sites and 28 known DEP contaminated sites, all in 1 square mile. And that's why New Jersey DEP considered this one of the top environmental justice priorities in the whole state.
This area here, especially this block here, was one of the worst areas in crime in the city of Camden for murders, for drugs, and trash and debris and so forth like that for over 50 years.
In 2013, EPA facilitated a partnership with the city, county, and state DEP, launching the Camden Collaborative Initiative to improve pressing environmental issues and disparities, helping Camden become a sustainable city.
One thing that's really interesting about the Camden Collaborative Initiative is that there are no compacts or binding agreements between the partners. There's no consent order. These are all partners that are voluntarily working together to try to deal with and address Camden City's environmental issues. So as a clean water utility, our first goal, of course, was to clean the Delaware River and keep it safe from water quality impacts. But we wanted to make sure that we did that without adversely affecting our neighbors, which are only 100 yards away from our wastewater treatment plant. So we spent, using the state revolving fund, over $50 million in odor control improvements. The second component was to be a good neighbor. To that end, we've constructed rain gardens throughout Camden City to reduce the combined sewage flooding problem.
The Waterfront South Rain Gardens Park project turned an abandoned gas station into a rain garden park, and that was the first project to mitigate stormwater problems in the city that evolved into the Camden SMART program and is a model for the state of New Jersey to address water infrastructure problems.
Other Camden Collaborative Initiative projects also deal with stormwater, flooding, and combined sewer overflow.
We're here in Bonita Park, which is sort of the cornerstone and greatest examples of one of our sustainability initiatives here in the city of Camden. So you may hear some of the children playing in the background and see the playground equipment behind me. But this is also a site that suffers from severe flooding issues. Their number one issue, of all the issues that they could choose from, in this neighborhood, they chose the flooding as their number one concern. It's a health hazard because it's a combined sewage problem, so there's sewage water that comes up in this park. These fields, after a 1-inch rainfall and they're filled with water, they are unusable for days and weeks at a time.
In addition, Baldwin's Run, a stream that used to flow through the area, will be restored.
It also provides the first point of access to the river for this entire Kramer Hill neighborhood, which has about 3 miles of waterfront property, all of which is inaccessible to the public. Besides the value of the flooding mitigation for this project, the community benefit of being able to access the water really can't be discounted.
Another initiative project focuses on urban reforestation to enhance the quality of life in Camden.
What I love about our Camden program is that it brings the gift of trees and the gift of nature right to people's front doors. Our program here in Camden is called the Urban Airshed Reforestation Program. We find communities that don't have trees and people that want to bring trees to their neighborhoods or to their community gardens, and we partner with them to make that happen.
When you see the before and then the after, that's what takes you back, because once you see the finished product, to me, to you, it's normal. You come, just like this street right here, you come down the street and you say, what's the big deal? This is what I see in my neighborhood.
That's a great point.
Well,
yes,
that's exactly the point. That's what we want you to see, normality. What people deserve is just a normal, regular life, right? But to other people, they see this as something special. But to you guys, you see this all every day around your area. You see flagpoles up, you see flower boxes, you see benches in front of people's homes and things like that. But in the urban areas, it's not common to see that. And when you throw in the trees first, you bring a sense of hope that something good is actually happening for you in front of your home.
The initiative also focuses on creating open spaces throughout the city.
We've had a presence in the city of Camden since 1985, and over that period of 30 years, we have been integral in integrating the Camden Greenways into the city master plan. We've secured some easements along the Cooper River, and currently we are working on Gateway Park, which is going to provide 25 acres of open space to Camden City's residents and 1 mile of trail. I'm a Camden native. I grew up in the Parkside neighborhood, which is just on the other side of the Cooper River. The first park I ever went to was called Farnham Park, and I wasn't able to spend an awful lot of time in that park when I was growing up because of the condition of this 25-acre parcel here. Some of the seedy activities that happened along this corridor carried up into the neighborhood, so I wasn't allowed to spend a lot of time there. So this is really where it all began for me, and I find it providence that I'm here at this point, many years later, to have the opportunity to convert Gateway Park into something that's for public use and enjoyment in perpetuity.
Personally, as a Camden resident, someone who grew up in the city and realized the importance of creating an environment where people want to live, work, and play. Your zip code should not also determine what the quality of the environment is that you live in.
The initiative created a riverfront park in the Waterfront South neighborhood, a neighborhood that until recently had no waterfront access despite bordering the Delaware River.
So when an abandoned factory came up for sale, we obtained an open space grant from our county to purchase the property. We obtained funding from the EPA and the NJDEP through the State Revolving Fund to demolish the factory and replace it with a riverfront park that does many things. First, it provides riverfront access to our community. Second, it eliminates the contaminated soil and the contaminated runoff into the Delaware River. It eliminated 5 acres of impervious surface and replaced it with 5 acres of pervious surface, capturing 5 million gallons of stormwater per year, which reduces the combined sewage flooding problem in Camden. So it's the perfect example of collaboration and a win-win approach.
On a beautiful August day in the Waterfront South neighborhood, community members celebrated the opening of a waterfront walkway connecting the Fish Pier to the new Phoenix Park. This was an example of EPA and the Camden Collaborative working with faith-based partners to make a visible difference. Andy Cricken honored Father Doyle, who had been a proponent of community open space for decades.
Look around you, and this is the monument to Father Doyle. This has been his dream and his vision. You can look everywhere in our community in Waterfront South and the difference that he has made, whether it be this fishing pier or the Phoenix Park and the riverfront. We are so lucky to have him in our neighborhood.
Father Doyle recites his poem, which embraces Camden's environment and community effort to protect it.
O Camden, Camden, rise up and live. Your river mother is always young. She'll give you birth as she did before and break her water in the shining sun.
In this remote mountain setting, it's easy to forget about the effects of climate change. But most people here understand the consequences, both local and global.
You want to talk about sustainability, Hailey, Idaho is your place. They received a grant from us and they did great things. They did this by implementing many projects that involved their citizenry.
Buildings consume 41% of the energy used in the United States. By building smarter, we can reduce energy consumption. Airtight construction, efficient windows, doors, and walls, recycling, water conservation, and much more create other benefits. In 1 year, a smart building of 2,000 square feet uses 10 fewer tons of greenhouse gases. To facilitate home energy saving, the city created a program called Save-A-Watt. Citizens participating in workshops were educated on energy efficiency and became eligible for rebates on some costs. One climate challenge partner, the South Central Community Action Partnership, even helped ensure that income-eligible households could participate.
One of the projects that they did that was highly successful was around construction waste, and the deconstruction program was particularly interesting because people didn't think it would work to begin with, but they ended up making money off of what they thought was waste.
Construction-related materials and waste are often thrown away and trucked to landfills. Materials can be diverted for reuse, recycling, and more efficient disposal. 13 local contractors and building owners joined a program to track materials and their disposal costs. Each received a rebate incentive to divert and recycle as much as possible. It's easy to take outdoor lighting for granted, but many streetlights are old and inefficient. In our next project, Hailey set about upgrading streetlights. Streetlights are one of America's city's largest energy drains. If all lights were converted to LED or another type of efficient lighting, 40% of the energy could be saved.
They ran into issues with historic buildings. They got through it and they made it happen, and it looks great. The thing that was impressive about the Hailey grant was Hailey more than stepped up to the plate. They far exceeded EPA's expectations by reducing 525 metric tons of CO2 equivalent every year.
We're a small town and the results may be considered insignificant. If something like this were to be done in other communities across the nation, the impact could be quite large. We did it!
When I heard that they were going to march in the 4th of July parade for their hometown, I knew that they had to be very proud of all of their achievements. EPA needs to fund more projects like the one that happened in Hailey. These people are eager to experiment, they're eager to share, they become teachers. They bring along their citizens. It's huge. And I think our money was well spent and made a big impact, and I think it will continue to make an impact when they talk to other Idaho cities and cities in Oregon and Missouri. And they will, and they are.
Interstate 90 is a lifeline for the Northwest. It connects people and the economies of eastern and western Washington, and Washington with the rest of the country.
An average of 27,000 vehicles cross Snoqualmie Pass, 35 million tons of freight cargo, which equates to $500 billion, crosses I-90 each year.
Whether you live west of the mountains or east of the mountains, I-90 is our lifeline.
Like any other well-used road, parts of I-90 are in desperate need of improvements.
We became involved in this project through the National Environmental Policy Act. Because this highway project used federal dollars, EPA is required to review federal environmental impact statements. NEPA gives us the opportunity to ask the hard questions that enable us to make good decisions that are more long-lasting and more sustainable.
We need I-90 to keep Washington moving. We made a commitment to the legislature and the citizens of Washington to complete this project on time and on budget.
So thanks everybody for being here.
Known as the I-90 Snoqualmie Pass East Project, these improvements will help alleviate congestion and make I-90 safer and more efficient. The road bisects a critical wildlife corridor. Many species from the north are prevented from moving south. Animal populations from the south are isolated between the Columbia River and I-90, unable to move north. Culverts, lengthening bridges at streams, or adding wildlife overcrossings. This will allow streams, fish, and wildlife to safely cross I-90.
Focusing on ecological connectivity at every scale is important, especially with climate change and all the challenges that poses.
It goes from the high mobility species like, grizzly bear, wolves, wolverine, fisher, and lynx, down to smaller species like the terrestrial salamanders and small mammals and snakes and lizards and frogs and basically everything.
One of the things that has impressed people is how the environmental community, the wildlife agencies, and the Department of Transportation have been able to work together to come up with a solution and, critically, find the funding to do it.
We used a decision-making tool suggested by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Once we all understood each other, we were able to come to consensus, a more sustainable outcome. It was a great tool for doing this.
We were able to find the best locations for the crossing structures, the right height, the types of design that is going to work best for almost 200 species of wildlife. So when this is done, this will be the best design in the country.
It's just pretty amazing. I mean, it's an incredible project. I think at this time, it's the biggest, one of the biggest highway crossing structures, wildlife mitigation projects in the country, if not in the world. It's huge.
The best thing about this project, it was about removing barriers. Barriers to travel, barriers to wildlife movement, barriers to ecosystem processes, and barriers between humans. Please visit our website.
We're here today in Hood River, Oregon, in the Columbia Valley.
Before the river turns into a windsurfing mecca, it provides habitat for fish, water for residents, and irrigation for some of the region's most productive farmland.
Our forte is pears, and there's not very many places in the U.S. that can grow pears like the Hood River Valley.
Crop and the value-added product that comes out of this county is about $260 million.
30 years ago, this irrigation district was pretty much fully open canals and losing a lot of water and going through drought cycles where they had a hard time delivering water to their farmers.
February 1996, huge rain on snow event, huge flood event, annihilated our canals, virtually put the district in a condition where it had no physical means of conveyance for water for anything. We were shut down for months.
EPA's Clean Water State Revolving Fund grant allowed Oregon's Department of Environmental Quality to loan money to the Farmers Irrigation District so that they could convert the area's open irrigation canals to a piped and pressurized system.
This is the pipe we use. It's some of the pipe that we use. It was just something that had to be done. It was definitely out of a crisis.
There was so much water conservation that took place. They were able to sell excess water rights for permanent in-stream habitat for endangered fish.
Then we decided that we were going to take advantage of some modern hydroelectric equipment. I had no idea that we were going to be able to pick up an extra approximate 2 million kilowatt hours a year. That's equivalent to about a month's worth of electrical production, which in the wintertime could be a couple $100,000. So it's a substantial increase to revenues.
The sale of that energy is actually helping the district to pay off their loans ahead of schedule.
This year is a drought year, and the Hood River is down to record lows. If they hadn't done all this work, the river would basically be sucked almost dry. Because these two districts are able to take a third to a half of what they did traditionally, we still have some flow in the river. It's water security for the farmers. I mean, it's everything. This basin, that's the biggest piece of our economy is agriculture.
The DEQ Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund has objectives to help clean water. And the funding that we have, how can we make it work, including the environment, including the farmers, because they're all connected.
We're currently changing over block by block to more efficient sprinkler systems, which allows us better time management and also better water management.
It's pretty easy now to reflect philosophically and positively on the drama. It wasn't so much then, but there was that piece that said, here's an opportunity, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to sit back and snivel and whine and put up the, oh my God, we're broke again flag? Or are we going to solve the problem?
For our district, it's been huge, but the other part of it, it does help the other districts because it kind of brings the spotlight of what you can do.
We're working all over Oregon and getting ready to start working all over the western U.S. and basically replicating this model and going out, explaining to farmers and irrigation districts that you can actually save money, you can actually benefit your bottom line.
EPA has been fantastic. They're the ones that help to help guide where we can go outside of the box, but still fit within the rules.
We looked at a lot of other funding sources, and the SRF was by far and away the best. We just got things done very, very quickly, very efficiently. It was the antithesis of what some people might think of government entities and bureaucracy.
If you would like to learn more about how EPA jump-started this process, please visit our website.
When I was on City Council, we had a lot of interest in this community for sustainability, but there was nothing really in place to bring those things into action. It became very clear that it was really hard for the city as an organization really to have an impact in the community. The schools offered a great opportunity because they touched so many of the citizens. We put together a sketch of a program, called it Reading, Writing, Retrofit, and then applied for the Climate Showcase grant through the EPA. The grant opened the door to working with the schools, and from there the host of relationships and networks that developed just has continued to grow.
Well, it was nearly $500,000 in a grant, and it enabled a lot of partners to come together.
In March 2010, EPA awarded Land of Sky Regional Council the Climate Showcase Communities Grant to design and administer the Reading, Writing, and Retrofit program in Buncombe County and Asheville schools. The goals of the grant were to implement energy efficiency investments and engender student participation in green teams.
First started with bringing in the facilities managers and the superintendents from the two different school systems that are located in Buncombe County. And we began crafting a path forward to meet the goals of the Climate Showcase grant.
Our maintenance department, and they for a number of years, even prior to knowing about reading, writing, and retrofit, they have been sort of the leaders in our school system regarding the whole aspect of sustainability, and especially from the standpoint of energy.
A large amount of the grant was used for retrofitting 41 schools. Some of these retrofits were dedicated to low-hanging fruit that were discovered by energy audits. The most common of these were the installation of energy-efficient fluorescent lights in gymnasiums. These and other energy-saving measures offered immediate financial savings and a reduction of greenhouse gases.
We thought we could save about 1,000 tons of greenhouse gases annually, and actually we ended up saving closer to 1,300 tons annually. We saved 2.5 million kilowatts annually, And that equates to a cost savings of $250,000 a year. The schools, when they started seeing the energy savings and the impacts to their physical environment, they brought in an energy manager who pushed it even further.
$20,000 was allocated for microgrants to be used for student and teacher projects. Originally, that money was used to initiate 18 green teams.
Reading, writing, and retrofit is at the core of this effort for our green schools, and in fact 24 of our schools received the Green School certification, and so each one of those looks a little bit different.
Sustainability ties into our standards in a lot of different ways, specifically in the physical sciences, alternative energy, solar energy, wind energy, and that's very easy for sustainability to be a strong piece in that curriculum.
I work together with all of the classroom teachers to align their curriculum with environmental education topics. Well, the reading, writing, and retrofit funding helped to kickstart our green team. As the years have passed, it's become an institution. The green team is something that lower grades kids look forward to being a part of, and so we've expanded from being a small group of leadership kids in an after-school club to it being the entire 6th grade.
Using a solar panel is important because, well, you don't burn fossil fuels. We were giving a few materials, one 6-volt solar panel, a light, and a battery pack. I made a charger for a phone. For one circuit, I attach my batteries to my charger. That's charging your phone. And when I need to charge my batteries back up, I attach the battery pack to the solar panel, put the solar panel in the sun, and it recharges the batteries.
We built a solar light, and we have a solar panel on the top, and we have our solar light on the bottom of here, and our battery pack. Then when I connect these, the light turns on.
Our green team is primarily teacher-led at this point. We have representatives from each of the grade levels. Here at Hall Creek, sustainability is multifaceted. We wanted more than just ornamental gardens. We wanted functional learning environments, and we have a student-led recycling team, so that helps them reduce their footprint on the earth. And then we've tried to incorporate the students eating some of the food from their gardens so they can really understand the process of where food comes from.
The students do everything in the garden. The students are the ingenuity and creative minds that craft what we do out there. And then they do all the harvesting, and I have initiated a really rigorous edible education program here as well. The water from the garden comes almost solely from the gym roof. We have a very in-depth 8th grade piece of curriculum that looks at stormwater management on our campus and takes content from the lower grades where we learned about watersheds and how we're a part of a watershed and what we can do to make sure that we're being responsible in our watershed.
The schools embraced their natural surroundings and created outdoor laboratories and classrooms.
Creek Week is a week where the entire 8th grade science team goes out to the creek, and we look at readings of different things that tell us if the creek is healthy or not. Turbidity, nitrates, phosphates, pH, dissolved oxygen, temperature, etc. We learned that our creek is mostly healthy, but there is animal feces in it. There's many surrounding farms and whatnot, so when they do what they do and it rains, it washes into the creek.
Cane Creek is what's known as a Green School of Quality. That's the level that we're recognized by the state of North Carolina. It's earning points on a rubric that's set up across the state for doing different environmentally friendly projects, energy efficient projects, projects that bring awareness of environmental issues to students.
Reading, writing, retrofit has morphed into the North Carolina Green Schools program, and we are reaching out across the state of North Carolina on a web-based platform that gives resources to any interested teacher in our state.
It's exciting to be here, to be energized, to see what people can do if you just give them a little bit of a start and continue helping things move forward. That's pretty exciting to come here year after year and see something new happening and being able to trace it back to a relatively small investment that we as a country made through EPA.
The most important thing that we're doing with this project is teaching students about the earth and how they are stewards to this earth.
It's always nice to sit back and see public recognition of the right things. And this is one of those areas that, you know, I can truly say I've not heard the first negative. And when you think about it, who could throw stones at something like this? I mean, this is a life, these are life skills that we're teaching.
I think what excites me the most is that we have kind of done what we've set out to do. We look to say, how can you have an impact on a community? And when I walk into a school 5, 6, 7 years later and hear the teachers talk about their culture of sustainability in the school and how they're taking that home with them and the kids are getting their parents to recycle at home, it just makes me really proud that we were able to accomplish what we wanted to do.
Home to some of the largest natural resource deposits in the world, the beautiful Clark Fork River Basin has a proud legacy of mining and was at one time the economic backbone of the state.
There's 10,000 years plus of human history here at the confluence of the Clark Fork and Blackfoot rivers.
The Blackfoot and the Clark Fork is an area of great historical and cultural importance to the tribes. It was known in the Salish language as the place of the big bull trout.
Meriwether Lewis passed through here in 1806, and the Mullinan expedition camped out here in the 1860s. Kind of the story of industry, you know, and how that developed a lot of western Montana.
This area provided timbers for the mines in Butte. The copper mines in Butte were supplying copper for the electrification of America.
In 1908, the Milltown Dam was completed. In June of 1908, a flood of historic proportions came down the Clark Fork River. Contamination with copper and arsenic and other heavy metals. And over time, the arsenic in those sediments worked its way into the local drinking water supply.
The initial reason for the Superfund site designation was groundwater contamination, and the primary area of that was in the Milltown area itself.
The Milltown Reservoir Superfund site was one of the first Superfund sites in the country and the very first one in Montana.
The floods in 1996 especially showed us that dam was in danger, and what went over the top scared us all.
We had a fish kill. That refocused EPA's attention, and for the first time, EPA considered dam removal as an option.
Tribes were a key partner, the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes. And then, you know, thousands of Missoulians and Montanans, you know, chimed in with their support for dam removal.
Under the reservoir, for 100 years, you know, there were stumps, and some of them are still visible, but there were willows that grew on their own 100 years later.
One of the hallmarks of this project are the 3 R's: remediation, restoration, and redevelopment. And by knowing where we wanted to end up with redevelopment, we could then tailor our remediation and restoration to kind of literally lay the groundwork for future redevelopment efforts.
One of the things that EPA helped us do, which I am so thankful for, is to form what we called the working group. We told them they'd only have to meet a few times. I think they're still meeting.
We would make drawings and we'd have ideas, and all of those ideas formed a concept, which is now the Milltown State Park.
You know, you just have to imagine that a lot of this was just flooded with the reservoir. We've got about a 535-acre park here. It's a park in the rough at this point, but we're getting it developed. The vision is a lot of recreational opportunities, trails, river access. But yeah, have a look at that sometime if you like.
All right, appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.
The recreation economy is very important in Montana, and especially in western Montana.
In addition to clean water for everyone and a free-flowing river, which are wonderful, historic preservation has been a super success story.
We have opportunities now that we didn't have before. Before we had a blighted area with contaminated groundwater.
We have to think about the future, and water is a big part of our future, of course, of our lives in general. And reclaiming the groundwater at Milltown is definitely got a sustainability component to it.
The Milltown project is a confluence of many things. It's the confluence not only of the Blackfoot and Clark Fork rivers in western Montana, but it's also the confluence of dedicated people and events.
Thousands of people made this happen.
If anyone wants to know more about what we did here at Milltown, please feel free to contact me.
Our city grew up along the waterways of San Pedro Creek and the San Antonio River, and so we're defined by that. As we've gone along, though, and urban development came, those waterways became under serious threats.
As San Antonio grew, strong storms and stormwater runoff from impervious surfaces created serious floods that would eventually threaten the city itself. In the 20th century, the Army Corps of Engineers saved the city, but at a great price, turning historic and life-sustaining creeks into drainage ditches.
We just move the water out, you know, we don't care about the ecology or the restoration, or just get it on down the road.
So the Urban Waters project that we have here in San Antonio is actually a unique project in itself. The city and the San Antonio River Authority actually approached the agency on becoming one of the designated communities.
The EPA co-leads this Urban Waters project and provides support in convening as many as 14 different federal partners with the city of San Antonio to help conceive and negotiate ways to restore or provide access to urban waterways.
The reconnecting of the neighborhoods back to the creeks is a very, very important component, particularly in this West Side Creeks project, because these West Side Creeks were really part of the culture of this community.
The restoration of San Pedro Creek is part of the West Side Creeks project.
I grew up in the neighborhood. I was born 2 blocks away, and that was part of my playground. I was a downtown brat when I was young. We used to swim in that creek and everything else. However, it would get flooded. Army Corps of Engineers came along. They prevented the flood. Besides the system of gates and channelization, they also put in a concrete ditch. It's something that touched the heart of the community in a very cold way.
So now through this ecosystem restoration project, we're going to the best of our ability, still balance the flood protection, but also bring back very critical habitat so that these important features of these creeks will now be able to re-engage with the community. They'll be able to have fish and birds and crawdads and the things that they remembered that will become now part of these creeks again.
San Antonio is taking steps to make sustainability a component of future growth.
Sustainability is a thriving economy, it's a fair and inclusive community and a healthy environment. I think all of our waterways define that. They aren't just waterways that are delivering stormwater downstream. They're economic drivers. They are recreational amenities that contribute to the health and well-being of our community.
The Almost Creek restoration is one example of turning a challenge into an asset.
The creek really suffers from a series of flood events over the past decade. And one of the major problems with the creek is an inordinate amount of flood debris. What this restoration project represents is the opportunity for neighborhoods and our region to connect to this urban creekway that runs through the city.
Back downtown, HUD's Choice Neighborhood Program will revitalize distressed public housing and leverage a waterway restoration to make a healthier neighborhood.
This neighborhood is located on the Near East Side, and so it's a jewel. It's a jewel in that you already have access to downtown. This entire neighborhood will be a pedestrian-friendly neighborhood when it's completed. We have a concrete channel currently that is going to be reconstructed into an earthen channel, and then we'll have a linear park that will be a part of those improvements. And the bike trails, the walking trails will connect to the Salado Creek.
Where we're standing now is on the Salado Creek Greenway. This is a piece of a larger system in San Antonio that consists currently of 47 miles of trail. And we're hoping also that this system of greenways will be the beginning building blocks of a larger system of pedestrian and bicycle connectivity for the people here.
So we're excited about that because it will give this neighborhood and these residents an opportunity to get outside, play, be healthy, recreate. And so we're looking forward to that.
The San Antonio River runs through San Antonio Mission's National Historical Park. The ecological restoration of the Mission Reach took about 6 years and $271 million and was financed and executed by local government, the Army Corps of Engineers, and private donations. It also benefited from the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009.
While many people think of the resources here at the National Park as the churches, everybody thinks of the beautiful churches and, oh, that's the mission. That's not the mission. That's a piece of the mission. A mission was the community, it was the farm fields, it was the ranches, it was the acequias. And so the river, with its connection with these acequias, made this the reason that the missions are here. At the time that the park was established back in the late 1970s, there was concern about the condition that the river was in. You know, the ecosystem restoration is just fantastic. And so now our visitors who come here, we take great pride in directing them to the river to see what kind of wildlife is there.
San Antonio has found that ecological restoration can lead to world-class results.
In 2011, we had opened 2 phases of the Mission Reach, and we had the Secretary of the Interior, Salazar, came to that opening, and at that point said he was going to support the application for the San Antonio Missions to be designated as a World Heritage Site. And this summer, in July, we received the World Heritage designation. It was just an incredible achievement for this community because everyone had worked so hard to make sure that these missions could be on the world stage. I'm very proud of the fact that we've been able to get people to understand and appreciate the importance of these rivers and creeks within this urban environment.
You know, we build the hike and bike trail, but it's essentially just a small piece of construction that goes onto something that was already beautiful and has been for a long, long time. It's really just nature that is really the most precious asset of the whole program.
If anybody else has got a river or a creek, you don't know what a jewel you have if you've let it deteriorate on you. You need to come to San Antonio and see what we've done. They give you some ideas.
Water is life. What we're doing with water in Bexar County and San Antonio is bringing more life, better life to the city.